Raise your hand if you've ever been busy. Raise your hand if you've ever got tired and feel like you just need a couple days off. Most people would have both hands up right now. That's our world, fast-paced and income-driven. That's why we get caught up in our own lives so often, and that's why it's understandable when most people don't focus on worries that aren't their own. So what makes someone become a humanitarian? Someone whose whole life focuses on the welfare of other humans.
When you go back and you see kids that were living on the streets, kids had no structure, they had no routine, people who had nothing, they didn't have meals. When you see that they're all of a sudden they're waking up, they have structure, they have something to do, they have a meal in their belly, their life changes completely. They, like I said, their self-esteem changes, their self-worth, their ability to know who they are in the world and what they have the potential of becoming. You know, to give that hope, to give that dream, and then to watch people actually use that to do good for themselves and others it's amazing. It becomes an addiction.
And with Serena's help, we'll find the meaning of life to a humanitarian.
My body becomes like a cement. Oh my God.
That was the better one.
Okay. Oh my God. It's like magic. Literally like magic.
Today, over 1 billion children in the world live in poverty. At Help Heal Humanity, our goal is to connect children in need with people like you who want to make a difference. Our student sponsorship program helps provide children with the necessities for a healthy and successful start to life. When you sponsor a student, you're not only giving them the gift of education, you're giving them the best chance for a brighter future. 100% of your donation supports the tuition fees, uniforms, textbook, and school supplies needed to thrive in a safe and healthy learning environment. Sponsor a student now and be the catalyst for their brighter future.
and welcome to the Coaches Lounge with Barbara Beckley, myself. As I always say, I love bringing on these wonderful coaches, consultants, educators that is helping people move in their lives. I really believe that they don't get the spotlight like they should, and you have people that are coaches of all different areas, expertise that is helping you move. You have speaker coaches, you have health or wellness coaches, you have people that publish books and help you write books, which I'm going right into who I'm going to bring in right now, is that she is the queen of all queens. But before I bring this queen, I just want to just give you like a recommendation. Okay, I always got to put that out there. And I just want to say, when I bring on these wonderful coaches and consultants, and if you see something that might help you, reach out to them. And if you know somebody that might need their help in some areas, give them the information, because that's why I bring them on, so you get the relationship built just a little bit with the conversation we have. And then from that point, the next stage is to help you and to move you, into your life and what you need far as a coach or consultant. So that's a little. Yes, we are back. We had to go to our sponsor. You know how that is. They help us with the show. So with that said, I am just so elated to bring on our first, when the women come on the show, I call them queens. I believe that every woman is a queen. I do. I believe in that. I say that. If you know me, I'm always, and somebody's always asked me, well, why you call women queen? I said, first of all, you shouldn't even have to ask. But since you are asking the question, I will let you know, first of all, they are a nurturer of the world. Okay. We breathe life, we give life, not just for children, but just in general to everyone. And then on top of that, when we have, family, we have, where we have all different worlds we have all different, let's say positions in our world. And then on top of that, we're always trying to create a legacy and moving forward even in our business or personal or what have you. So not putting down the men. I love the men. I always have to say that, put a little disclaimer, but I have to give so much encouragement and just honor for women. So that's why I call women queens. So that's where I get that from. And then nobody's going to ask me that anymore, right? We're good. So with that said, I want to bring on a wonderful, wonderful queen. Like, this is the Coaches Lounge. If you're just tuning in, this is Coaches Lounge with Barbara Beckley. And what this show does is spotlight coaches, consultants, educators, people that are moving the needle in other person's life. It's so important. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm this speaker, I'm this author, I'm this coach, whatever you are. But when a coach comes in your life, that's what makes you and grooms you to your best potential. So I said, you know what? I think I need a show to spotlight these wonderful people. And that's what I do every Friday. I'm always very excited when it comes to this show, because I get to meet people that are really just have a caring heart, besides what they do, as far as a coach, but they just have this caring heart about them. And it's just a gold. So with that, I want to introduce our first coach, and I'm going to ask her to forgive me, my head and not my heart, because I don't want to mess up her first name, because it sounds so beautiful. So I'm going to call her Queen Washington. And then when she comes up to the stage, she's going to correct me and say, Barbara, this is how you say my first name. But Miss Queen Washington, in 2016, Dr. Washington founded Unleash Your Unstoppable Inc., which aims to amplify Black beauty, reconnect to the deepest root of Black divine, and encourage the full expression of Black joy. Her flagship offers are the Black Goddess Within, BGW, suite of decks and programming. Dr. G is currently creating the second volume of the Black Goddess Within Oracle decks, which will release in Hay House in 2023. Wow. First of all, she's called the Black Goddess Guide. This is going to be good because we get to understand this wonderful queen, what she does for people in life. But before we bring her on, I also have to bring on the royalty on right. So let's see this short video, and then after that, you'll be hearing from this wonderful Black goddess. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing? Oh my God, wonderful earrings. Beautiful.
Thank you. These are my heels.
Oh, okay. Because I see them in the pictures when I was pulling them. And I was like, I got to ask her. Those are so beautiful.
Do you know what's really funny? I have not worn this outfit since I took that picture that day. And I was like, oh, I matched the picture.
See how things just sink in? That's wonderful. You never know. Well, first of all, lady, can you please pronounce your first name for me?
Yes, my name is Dr. Giavanni Washington.
Giavanni?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. I got it. So now, Dr. Giavanni, first of all, thank you for being patient. For some reason, I don't know if there was technical or whatever, but I'm so glad that you were still able to get on to the show because I didn't want to miss you today. And I was like, no, we can't have this technical stuff, whatever it is. So I appreciate you coming on the show, showing your genius, and just being a guest on the Coach's Lounge.
Thank you for having me. That was a lovely montage. I wasn't expecting to see myself like that this morning.
Oh yeah, we got out of the Queens.
I love it.
Black Goddess Queens. I love it. I'm gonna have to kind of mingle with those two now that I have that. So that is it's a pleasure to have that. So I want to start off because what I always like to do before we kind of get into what you do for others, which to give you encouragement. Thank you so much for changing the world for others because it takes a lot, and you're taking the time out to do that with what you do. Is I like to kind of just pull back the curtain a little bit and just see, okay, what made this wonderful queen do what she does, with the Black Goddess Guide and everything. So what prompted you to get into this field?
Oh, that's so interesting. There's so many pieces to the story. I think the salient pieces are there weren't that many jobs for people with a PhD in humanities when I graduated. So I was like, well, I got to do something to earn, to support my life and my family. And my life had been shifted by the power of the drum. And so I wanted to bring drum medicine to the world. And that's really where my business endeavors started. And through that work, found coaching and personal development work and the self-help world, the self-development world, and started working with women, Black women in particular, and started working with the Black goddesses because I was, this is a part of the story, I was really into oracle decks, but was very frustrated by the lack of representation in the oracle and tarot world. And, my favorite decks were the non-human decks. It was like the sacred geometry deck or the animal deck, or, it wasn't the people decks. Those decks were really frustrating to me. Mm-hmm. I was really, it took me a while to articulate it, but not seeing Black divinity was it was doing something inside of me. Mm-hmm. And then I purchased a deck, an Afro-Cuban Orisha deck, where the gods and goddesses should have been, brown skinned because they come from Nigeria and they were portrayed as white. And that was like devastating to me. And then the third sort of thing that happened was I was meeting with this group of Black women, working with the Black goddesses. And it was before the deck was created. And the Ferguson debacle happened. there were some police officers who killed an unarmed Black teenager, and they were acquitted. And on the day the acquittal came down, we were also having a meeting. And so I don't remember the conversation that happened that day, but I'm very clear that we all left with the commitment to change the way the world saw the Black body or sees the Black body. Mm-hmm. And for me, that looked like turning this work I was doing with the Black goddesses into a deck. And so we created the first deck. We call it the, what's the word? The prototype deck. You know, it had 13 cards. It was really a gift of a labor of love. And when we re-released it 5 years later, some months after George Floyd was murdered, and I think the world was just ready for it, and it took off and sold like gangbusters, to the point where now we're going to release the next deck next year with Hay House. We're currently working on it. It's going to be a full 44 card deck. It's highlighting 30 goddesses from all over the continent of Africa. It's going to have some ancestral cards. Sharing ancestral wisdom, also from pre-colonial Africa, highlighting women's history from pre-colonial Africa, because we have a history before slavery, you know.
Yeah, and thank you so much.
This is
that. Yes,
it's my big pet peeve. It's like, no, we existed before. This is not the thing that defines us. So that's the short. I mean, maybe that was the long version.
No, that's good. I love when you bring the story behind, your brilliance of what you do. Now, just for the audience, just to clarify, because I mean, I understand, but can you just get a little definition of the Oracle deck, so what that means?
Absolutely. I have some right here. An Oracle deck is, well, the tarot decks were probably first, and they were, I think, invented in like the 1700s in Italy. A famous rich family commissioned them. They were originally playing cards that became cards used for fortune telling, and then at some point they added images to the cards, and the images became a part of the storytelling. So Oracle means word of God. So it's a way of getting ancestral wisdom or spirit's wisdom or God's wisdom through our inspiration through the cards. So for example, this is Oya, right? And then on the back of her, she has a story, a little bit of wisdom on the back, but then her mantra is choose your words that celebrate your inner divine. So people know Oya as she has dominion over the wind and storms and rainbow, and she stands at the cemetery. She communicates with the ancestors. She helps people move back and forth across from life to death. But she also has dominion over words. And so she reminds us to speak to ourselves nicely, right, and kindly, because that's an example. I mean, there's I think 7 goddesses in the first deck, and then 6 other cards. We call them concept cards that show again.
Beautiful.
They're beautiful. Here's another one. Let me see. This is a great one. This is called Threshold, and it shows the door here, and it talks about how our lives are full of thresholds and the spaces between them, which is one type of wisdom. But this particular image is of the home of the Ndebele people in Zimbabwe. And the painting actually was a way of women painted the houses, and it was a way that women communicated with each other during apartheid. So they could call for, I'm sure they could, say, oh, there's a baby happening, but they could also say, hey, we're having this secret meeting at this time and this day, come join us and let's,
fellowship.
Yeah. So it intervenes on a lot of levels. There's not a lot of images about the Black divine. My big joke was not really a joke, but there's a Muppet movie where there's a Kermit Jesus, because it makes sense that frogs would have a divinity that looks like a frog. So divinity can also look like us, right? Our divinity does look like us. And so we need to see ourselves in it. And that's why we created the deck. And that's why we keep creating the deck.
Yeah, so I love that. And I love how, the meaning behind it and how deep it is and how it's a reminder for you. Because I could see me having that deck, which now you see I'm about to buy the deck. I'm going to get online and buy it. But I can see how, you have that. And it's not only, to remind you in your own life, especially as a Black goddess, as you said, of the certain things. And I'm glad you said, which I'm always saying, that it wasn't just slavery as us as Black people. I'm like, it just irks me to the core that people just look at that history that of, and there's so many kings and queens and the whole history of where we came from and what we did and the things we created. I mean, look at you, how you creating this, this oracle of life through us to make sure that we remember certain things. So yeah.
100%. No, I think it's really important that we reconnect to our lost histories. This word that sort of tumbled out of my mouth recently, our phrase, is that cultural orphan, like in many ways, and I didn't realize this until I found out through my father's, we went through African ancestry DNA and found that he is related, or that we come from the Bisa people of Burkina Faso. And there was something about the specificity of that something happened inside of me. Like we had done ancestry DNA and we knew that we were attached through my mom's line through like 11 countries. It just wasn't helpful. I was like, well, I already claimed the entire continent, but knowing specifically that we were from these people, and that I had been to this country twice already, 15 years ago, and that I just finished studying a year with a shaman from Burkina Faso. Like I've been called to the place, right? And it was the place where I felt, I mean, literally I'd go outside and be like, oh, look, there's my cousin. There's my other cousin. Like people just look like my family, right? And so to know that they were quite literally my people was something has like, oh, I'm not a cultural orphan anymore. And I think that it sparked this belongingness inside of me, which made me walk a little taller and it made me understand things a little differently. And it was kind of like, you can't F with me anymore. I didn't know that all those things were missing until I had that, until it was there, until the feeling was complete and whole. And I was like, oh. And so this is something that I've been writing about and working with for many, many years, 2 decades, and just wasn't calling it belonging, but that's essentially what it is. Right? It's about reconnecting with those lost histories. And when I see it, when I talk about healing the rupture of colonialism, I see a thin gold thread tying up the two ribbons. And it's this very delicate healing process that really holds, I think victorious is the word that I feel. Like I feel victorious. I don't know what I've won exactly, but I feel victorious.
Yes. Well, I mean, you're just exciting me when you just said cultural orphan, and now you don't feel that way anymore because now you found that we're connected. It seemed, and you know what? Now thinking about this, doctor, that I think that's what going on in the world right now, especially with the Black and Browns culture, is that sometimes I feel like sometimes we don't want to admit it. And that's why I'm glad you said this, because maybe we don't admit that we feel a disconnect. And that's why other things in our life might be that we're dealing with internally and emotionally. Absolutely. And then, then out and then on the external, you see what things are happening with, there's just a lot of just, confusion and killings and all that. And I feel like that somewhere down the line, maybe, our cultural connection is broke. Like you said, we're orphans in a sense because we don't really understand. And I'm glad you reached out to do that for you, because like you said, you stand a little taller, you understand who you are. It's like, now I know my place here. It always been there, but I just need to really kind of, dig and figure it out on my own.
Yeah. Too. And it's this thing that, I don't think I speak from the Black experience because that's the one that I have, but I feel like Americans in general, this might be something that's rampant in all communities. Communities that have been here for generations. I don't mean recent immigrant communities, because I think they're very connected to their cultural, they're not cultural orphans. But there's something about land, and there's something inherently important and tied to land about belonging. And when you're sort of landless, when you are a diasporic community, one of the hallmarks of diaspora is that there's a homeland, a shared homeland. And for Black Americans, we have Africa, right? But we don't have the specificity. And so I think we have made it work, and we claim Africa, we're African Americans. I don't say that I'm a Burkinabe American, right? Although now I might start saying that.
That's what I was like.
Now I am. But I'm also from all these other places, right? So there's a way that, I'm still working through all of this. Like it literally just tumbled out of my mouth about a month ago, and I was like, but there's something there. And there's something, America's a young country, right? And we're still really working through our identity issues. And, half of the country doesn't really like the other half of the country, doesn't really want to incorporate and embrace the other half of the country. And these are numbers I'm just throwing around, but there's a real distaste for acknowledging the the origins of this country and the blooded land that America is built on. And until we do that, like we're not gonna have this settled. Everyone's gonna, we're continue to be cultural orphans, which means we won't belong, right? We won't ever have that true sense of belonging, which means we're always gonna feel alienated, which is always gonna create problems, right?
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad you brought up. This is so rich, because now that just us having this conversation is making me think and say, yeah, I need to reach out and really see who. I mean, I thought I knew who I am, which I know to a certain extent, but it's like when you get that, there's something, there might be something little, just a little thing missing to get that connection more. And like you said, with our culture, who we really are, will give us more clarity. And then, like you said, stand a little taller. Be able to say to yourself, you know what? I'm not going to deal with certain things. I know who I am now. Totally. I got the total picture here. Yeah.
I mean, I think it will change your leadership. I think it will change your relationships, the way that you are in relationships. I think it will change your decision making. It's going to impact you on so many levels. Yes. And I think that's why I think ancestry work is so important. And that's why, and it doesn't have to necessarily be DNA. That's not the only way to get the answers. I think ancestors talk to us in dreams. I think they talk to us in song. When in my early days of African dance, I would hear songs being sung. And I mean, to the point where I would look around and be like, who's singing? Who's singing? And there was nobody in the room singing. It was just, the drums were creating some sort of resonance or opened a portal or something. And I was literally hearing like full songs in languages I didn't understand. Right. And so I'm just saying ancestors talk to us in the way that we understand. And that was the way they talked to me. But DNA is not the only way to get this information and to find the connection.
That is awesome. Now, just talking about, like you said, finding, that the divinity, like the ancestral, trying to say it. I know you have 5 master classes that you do. Can you give us a little detail on that?
Yeah, I'm currently doing a set of master classes called Sacred Summer, and it is really just like a taster of my work. So we go through a series of, it's basically ways to communicate with your ancestors. First session is we call in the ancestors. In the second session, it's called, Dreams and Divination. The third session is Rites and Rituals, which we actually did this week. And next week, we're doing Shadow and Spirit. And then in the 5th week, we do Medicine, Myth, and Magic. And so these are, which is basically my fancy way of saying healing, right? Because after you've called in the ancestors, you know how to communicate with them, you know how to be in practice with them in regular communication. Mm-hmm. And then you actually start identifying the wound, and Shadow and Spirit are the wounds. You then can turn to healing. And so that's basically, it's a short form of almost all of the work that I do. That arc is always there. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating, actually. And how do I say this? The Dreams and Divination session, which was a couple weeks ago, for example, it's things like tracking your dreams. So most people dream. Mm-hmm. I think everyone has the ability to dream, which is intimately tied to how well you're sleeping, right? Because you actually have to get to a certain level of deep sleep in order to dream. Yes. But if you're taking care of that and you're resourced in that way and you're dreaming, and then you begin, some people don't remember their dreams, but you can develop that capacity to remember your dreams, and then you start tracking your dreams, and over time you'll begin to see the messages, right? Yeah. And I approach dreams not from a Jungian way at all. It's from a very different perspective. There are mosquitoes flying in my office, and I'm like, don't bite me. Sorry. Like, keep looking up.
I hate that.
Yeah, well, the doors are open. It's a nice breeze, but the skeeters have shown up.
Yeah, it's you're dealing with mosquitoes. Yesterday, I was dealing with flies. I'm like, really? And they would, how they'll zzz. It's like, and you're trying to work.
It's definitely here.
So I totally understand.
It's that's the trajectory. But there's something rich inside of dreams. There's something rich in divination systems, and there's all kinds of divination systems. It's like, I think really each of us is a diviner. Mm-hmm. And, we have intuition, we have the goose flesh, we get tingles when something happens. We have something that says, take the umbrella, even though it's 80 degrees and sunny outside. you know, and then you take it and then it rains. You're like, oh, something was talking to me. Like, we're all connected. We have developed it differently or not developed it differently, I think, as it really is the case. Many of us are taught to ignore our intuition, but there's ways in which we are all tapped into spirit. There's ways in which and guess invisible ways of knowing that we really don't give a lot of credence to as a country. But we have these capacities, and we really, I think it just would behoove us to pay attention to them. And if you have the desire to actually nurture that as a resource.
Yes. You know, I'm glad you said, see, you guys, this is so much rich conversation and I know the time, but I wanted to say what you said about dreams and really connecting with that and the intuition that you have, because there's a lot of times I've noticed for myself through life that, I don't know, Doctor, if you ever, you know, you like in a certain, it could be like in your home, just anywhere. And you'd be like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. I've been here before.
Yeah.
Something, it was either in a dream, you know, it's just something and you're trying to pull to see what is going on. Cause you know that something was said to you somewhere inner, or you've seen it somewhere, like, you know, deja vu type of thing. And sometimes it just blows my mind. Cause like you said, sometimes we just kind of say, okay, let's put that to the side. Cause that sound like some people say woo woo or whatever, you know how some people are. But then others be like, I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm not going crazy. This is something told me, you know? So I think what you're saying, that's what it is. We just have to just really understand how that works.
Understanding, I think, is that's one of the colonizers' like evil tools, is that they have privileged thinking over feeling and thinking over our bodily knowledge. So I don't know that we necessarily need to understand it. I think we need to believe it. Yeah,
because I don't want to be so, like you said, I want to gravitate to it more so than trying to, okay, why is this happening? Or I know this is, but so, you know, because you're just sitting there fighting with yourself.
Yeah.
And like you said, just flow with it.
Flow with it, trust it.
Just trust it.
I mean, you can develop your intuition, right? If you make conscious effort, conscious action to choose to trust it, choose to act on it, and then watch what happens. And I think it's a feedback loop, a positive feedback loop. The more you do it, the more it will happen, the more accurate it will get, right? And I think this is something that I often forget. It's like we have to trust that our ancestors or spirit, God, universe, however you want to call it, are working on our best behalf, right? They're working on behalf of our greatness. And that's something that often, you know, I think we get caught up in our heads. Like, I got to figure it out. I have to make it work. It's like, no, it's already working. And we don't even understand we don't understand the bigger picture. Right. But they do.
They do. You know, a long time ago, Doctor, it's funny you say that about thinking, understanding. When I was much younger, now I'm telling my age, much younger, back in the day, when I used to do studies and stuff, when I was going to college in my earlier days, and I had my others, you know, the students around me, and we used to get together sometime, and we would study certain, you know, subject, and I'd be like, well, why are they do, and why is this and this, and so they would just turn around and say, Barbara, you think too much. Just let it flow. Just believe in that part of it, you know, because I was always the, like, you know, dig more and see why. And I'm just, you know, because I get excited, you know, I wanted to know. And, you know, now that I've gotten older, I have really worked on that more. And like you said, just believe, just trust in the process of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think, I mean, also, I was one of those kids who was always asking, even really an adult, always asking, why? But why? I mean, that's legitimately what led me to the PhD, because I wanted to know more about this particular thing. So it does serve you. I think there's space for all of these ways of being, right? You don't have to just let it flow. You can also study. You can also look for it. You can also, you know, but I just think there are things, like wherever you are in your process and your development, I think the things that are not as strong, you develop them, you know, you work on them, you strengthen them, and then you have a toolkit that is just amazing
in what you have. Right. So I think there's a little bit, like you said, you know, you want to ask the question because you want to know, of course, but then all of a sudden you have to trust in the process too at the same time. So if you kind of, I think, you know, like you said, the best of both worlds come in, and then, you know, it could work for you in your favor. So. But oh my God, Doctor, you got to come back. This has been amazing. You have taught me today. That's why I love bringing on these queens and these doctors and educators. So, doctor, what I usually do, I just take myself down for 30 seconds. If you want to give just some, other rich stuff that you've been giving before we close out and let people know where they can contact you. So I'm going to step down and give you 30 seconds to do that.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, I'm Dr. Giavanni Washington, and I'm your Black Goddess Guide. I help people harvest the wisdom in their ancestral lineages so that they can curate legacies of healing. And you can find the Black Goddess Within Oracle deck at go.blackgoddesswithin.com. That's go.blackgoddesswithin.com. You can find me at Instagram at Black Goddess Within, and you can also find me on Facebook. Just search for Giavanni Washington, and it's I do a lot of work on my public-facing Facebook page. I look forward to seeing you there. Come by, drop me a DM. Look forward to hearing from you. Maybe I'll keep talking. And if you'd like to join Sacred Summer, it's in my bio link on Facebook. We have 2 sessions left. Come on by.
Come on by. There you go. Thanks, lady. My background producer was making sure we had your contact information up there while you were explaining all the goodness that you give to the world, what you do in your life.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, lady, so much. And like I said, we're here. I always want to do this invite to all of my guests that we're here to support you. The Coaches Lounge is under the Diamond Factor Network and E360 TV partnership. We are here for you. So if you want to come back, if you have anything new that's happening, any kind of classes, whatever you're going to be doing.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome to come and tell us about it. Because as I said with the Coaches Lounge, I really want to spotlight like you and others that are really helping the world, helping us understand some things that we need to know and moving us. Yeah. So I wish you well. Again, you can contact this wonderful, beautiful queen. I put her Facebook page down here. But if you're like, well, that little thing down there is going too fast, Barbara, I didn't really get to see that. Contact me and I will contact the doctor.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much too. So I just want to, again, let everybody know that to contact me if you are interested in being a part of the show, just like Dr. here, and just to be, just like I said, just to show you and spotlight you. So you take care, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I want to thank this queen because she's been on my stage many times, in the show many times, and I totally just admire her. I salute her all the time. She's a mentor to me. She probably going to be like, really, bro? Yes, I watch her, and she's just doing phenomenal. Some good things for people, especially making people authors and best-selling authors. So this queen name is Pastor Paulette Harper. Now, she goes by Pastor P, which I love dearly. Endearing name. She's a certified business coach. She's a story coach, 5 figures visionary strategist for non-fictional authors, and awesome when it comes to giving individuals a way to becoming either their first-time author or continuing author. And she can make you and get you to that best-selling spot. The next thing that she has coming forward, because she does a lot of anthologies and she does a lot of single books too. She's going to talk to you a little bit about that. But we're going to talk a little bit to her today about When Queens Rise anthology that's coming up. And you will get a chance while we're talking to know how you might want to be one of those authors in her wonderful book and be that first-time author, or, add to your collection of you being an author. So we're going to bring her on right now, right after this clip, because I have to bring on the queen right. Hello, Miss Lady. How you doing, Queen?
Hello, Queen Barbara. Thank you so much for having me on.
Always, it is always a pleasure to bring the majesty of queens on the show. 'Cause you are a continuing queen that comes on that I love to bring on. And just, I always tell people visibility is the key. And if you can get with somebody that you harmonize with, that you want to help continuously and build that relationship, this is how you do it. Because we've been knowing each other for a while now. And you've been, I've been really wanting to, help bring those authors that you're helping to display and giving them their their center stages when they're doing their books with you. And we've been through a few of them, so I'm just so proud to be just a little bit a part of your team.
No, you're a big part of it. It's you said it, visibility is king, and it's really important that the authors have that exposure because they have great messages, and without them being on platforms such as yours and other platforms that allow them to come on and share their message, the world isn't going to know about what this great story that they have. So no, I appreciate the platform. I appreciate the offer that you provide for me and my co-authors to come on every time we do a book launch. So kudos to you, Queen Barbara.
Thank you. And I sometimes I feel like this is gonna say like this. Maybe I'm a good stalker because I see you doing your book and I'm like, hey, you want to get on stage, you want to come back, and I be doing that little like reminder, and I'm here for you. So I do appreciate that and appreciate what you do in people's lives, because like I said before, and I want you to get more into your next adventure, your next journey with new authors that's going to be coming to you in August, that putting pen to paper. Because I'm in a few books, and my first one, I keep remembering the first one I was in, and it was 4 years ago. I was fearful. Yeah. And I didn't even recognize how fearful I was until I started the journey of really opening up and saying, okay, I'm going to put this story that I have on paper now, and everybody's going to see it. Yeah. And I wasn't so fearful as that I didn't want to put the story out there. I was fearful that I wanted to make sure people was going to get something out of it to help them. So that's why I want to do it the right way. And then when you have coaches and mentors like yourself to walk you through it, and that's one thing that we always talk about with you, that you're like a different, like I said, you're different than the average coach, that writes the books, because you really get into it. It's like you're like our mother hen, I want to say, when you're walking through the different steps, and you look at the fact, because you understand that it's probably difficult for some people to really start that process.
Yeah, you hit it on right on the nail on the head, because people get afraid to begin to pen and write the story. And once they write it, because they have so many things to say about that particular topic, sometimes it gets kind of convoluted in the messaging. And so my job as a coach, it is really to make sure that they stay on point with their story and that they're not all over the place. Because if their story is all over the place, the reader is going to be all over the place, and that's not a good experience for the reader. And so one of the things that I do is, when before it even gets to the editing stages, I have all the authors send me their chapter, and I go through it and I provide feedback for them, and as the visionary, I have to make sure that it lines up with what the vision of the synopsis is, what the book is about, and that the story is really going by the guidelines that we've set, and that's to have an intro, to have the middle, which is the meat of the story, and then the conclusion really is the victory that comes from the story. So you take this reader on the journey. And so there are two types of visionary authors. There's a type of visionary authors who tell their co-authors, just send me your chapter and I'll see you when the book is published. There's no coaching or anything like that. And then there's a visionary author who, such as myself, I like the coach. I like the hands-on. I like to be able to teach the author how the writing style, what to look for, what to eliminate, but also what they need to hone in. And so I really love that piece of it. And then I also offer those who are struggling with writing their chapter. I offer them a one-on-one session with me because I want to make sure that they're clear on their subject, they're clear on their topic, and that it's really going to leave the reader with, really knowing about this author, but also that the author has something that they're proud of. And so I value the coaching piece of it, and I'm really blessed to be able to offer that to any of my co-authors in any of my anthologies.
And see, that's what makes you so unique, is that, like you say, you really just say, you know what, I'm going to walk you through this. We're going to have a conversation. And I like what you said, which I've noticed in some of my anthology books that I've been in, which they need to take a lesson from you. I'm not going to say names because I don't want to get in trouble. But when you mention that you want to make sure that the chapters, like the authors that are coming to you, are lining up with your biggest theme of what you're doing in that, at the anthology. Because it doesn't make sense if you have a whole bunch of different stories and they're just stories floating around and they're not really kind of getting to your main key purpose of what you're writing the book about.
Yeah, definitely. And so, one of the things that I found being a coach and then helping, especially first timers, and I probably shouldn't even say first timers, there are some authors who've written books before, but condensing a story in 1,500 words and 2,000 words is very challenging. Because you have this experience that you want to share and your mind just kind of goes in every direction and it's not really centered focus on that one particular subject and topic. And so what I really like to do is read the story, and then when I'm giving feedback, I'm telling them, for instance, when somebody sends me their chapter, they may have three different stories inside of one chapter, because they have a lot of stuff that they want to say. And so what I do is I say, no, we don't want those two. We want you to just expand on this one idea because you have a lot to say about this one idea. And if I'm sharing with them how to go a little bit deeper, what lessons did you learn? What do you want the readers to come away with? What how did you handle that? What led you to that? How did you feel? So I ask those kind of questions because it invokes answers within them, and it causes them to really dig deep within and realize, you know what, I do have something more to say about this particular topic.
And I love that you ask those questions to them, because now you're pulling things out of the teachable moments that they had within those stories that they're talking about. And it helps when it's in the book for others when they read it, what was the whole learning experience that they got out of their story. So it's just like you have your story, then after that you have, okay, let's do what was the journey that you went through? What did you learn from it? What did you take away from it? Where you're at now, how did it help you get to that point? So that's awesome. That's when the transformation happens.
Oh my God, that's the word right there. Transformation. Yes. It's about the transformation. Because if you're writing a story and, you're really focused, you're real precise, you really know what you're writing about. And you begin to see, man, this story really has transformed my own life, because you start out with the intro with a bang. You start out trying to pull the reader in by either asking the reader a question or making a bold statement or bringing his stats in. And then you are slowly developing the content of it by sharing your experience and how it made you feel. And then, of course, the end of the chapter is, how can it help someone else, And so when you think about that kind of, concept and developing a story, then at the end of it, when they finish writing it and they go back and they read their story, it's amazing, the transformation, you know, because they see, man, that really, that looks pretty good. You know, I wrote that, you know, and I really love that, to be able for the author to say, man, I love that story about me, you know? Yeah.
It's funny how you said that, Pastor P, because I did the same thing when I did my first chapter and a few other ones I did. When I finally read it again, then was in the book and I was reading it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, who's that woman? Or wow, she went through that and she's doing this now. You know, it's just like this amazing. It's like it's a wake up call again, all over again. That you know you went through something and you're still standing and you're flourishing and moving forward and helping others. So you know that all just kind of comes to you when you read your story again. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really does. And it's very powerful and it's so therapeutic, because a lot of times we don't know the depths of our transformation, you know, because of the experiences we've gone through, because we're part of that. And when we read it, when we write it and we read how we've come through that and the stages and the steps that we've taken and where we are and how we're standing now, you know, man, I didn't allow that circumstance, that situation, that adversity, that hardship, I didn't allow it to keep me, you know, at that place. I allowed it to just really shape me and mold me, but also I learned how to, you know, use it as a springboard to get to where I am right now. And those are the stories that we want, you know, readers to read. Those are the kind of powerful stories that really transform the lives of readers, because they're waiting for these stories that's really going to penetrate their hearts and speak to their hearts right where they are.
Yes, definitely. And like you said, it's just it's weird because like you said, it's helping them therapeutically, right? When they start to write it on piece of paper and pen. And then when you come in and ask those questions, now there's a second level to that where they're like, wait a minute, I didn't think about that. Thank you, Pastor P, for, you know, taking the time to ask those questions. And then the third part of it, of the whole level, is when the person reads their story and starts coming back and say, wow, you know, when you put in your story, that really helped me because now I understand what I need, or whatever the case may be. So there's all these different levels of just transformation after transformation after transformation.
Yeah. And I love being able to offer that service to the authors. I found that you know, there are many authors who've written before, but you know, I see that they still may need some help when it comes to that, you know, because I think the word count is a challenge for people, you know. And so I had one author who she wrote her chapter and the word count was like 1,500 words. She sent me her chapter. It was like 3,000 words. I said, now, you know, you got to cut it off, right? You know, you got to put off 1,500 words, right?
Oh, I know. She's like, no.
It was very hard. She was like, how about 2,500? I said, no, you got to cut it down, right?
How about 2,000? No. You know, see, I laugh again because I did the same thing in one of my other collaboration books. I think I had it at 2,500 and it was supposed to be 1,000.
Oh my God.
She said, Barbara, do we need to like sit for an hour so we can just start, you know? I'm like, I don't want to take it up. You know,
chopping it up.
She said, chop. And I got to the point, Pastor Peter, I was like, you know what? I was there an hour trying to figure out. I said, you know what? Forget this. Let me just take this out. This is over talking now. You know, you can tell all of a sudden when you start really looking at it, there's some extra words in there. There's some other things that really don't make sense with what the story. So you start thinking about it, you be like, okay, come on, Barbara, get rid of that.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
it's challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, I had another one where I was in a book. I had to do just 500 words.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's challenging. I mean, I'm blinking my eyes on that one. Yeah, that was like, wow.
And it's funny because I asked him, I said, did you say 500 or 5,000? And then he said, no, 500. I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, what you just say, this is what happened. This is what I learned. The end.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like that's one paragraph.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, how do I? Yeah. So again, that's challenging you to see what
Yeah.
that tells you to help you. I mean, now that on a serious tip on that, it does help you to really take your story and simplify it to the point where you're saying what you have to say. You know how sometimes say less is more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
Where the less you say, the more you just have to put that right then and there. You can't go around and take time. It's just like just put it out there. So
So
there's
true.
reasons for the plus they had more people in the book, so I think that's another reason why they
Yeah.
wanted to,
Yeah.
make it condense it. But it was just weird because like you said, you do have those challenges because you first, and I know you probably deal with the authors with this. The first step is like, okay, you need to just write a draft, just brainstorm, just write. And sometimes they're like, okay, especially if they're first timers.
Yeah.
I don't know what to write. And then when you get them to start, because I know you probably say, okay, let me ask some questions. They start, and now they don't know how to stop.
Right. Yeah, it's like this faucet just turned on, and they don't know how to turn the faucet off. Yes. Yes, exactly.
Pastor Pete turned on the faucet, and now you're like, okay, wait a minute. Wait, it's flooding. It's overflowing.
Yeah, exactly.
But now, Pastor Pete, when that happens, now do you basically ask them now that you did your 3,000 or whatever, and I'm telling you to cut? Do you tell them on that other part of it, or say that can be in another book or another chapter somewhere? I mean.
Oh yeah, definitely. And once they send it to me, and I see, and because with me, the very first thing I'm going to look at when you send me your chapter is the word count. That's the first thing I'm going to look at. And if I see that you're over the word count, and I mean, if it's 10 words over, no big deal. But if we're like 200 and 300 words over, then I'm gonna send it back to you. I'm gonna say, hey, you know what, you got to cut something out. So with ones that are 1,000 words over and whatnot, then I send it back. I said, hey, you can put a lot of that in another chapter or in your own solo book, but here we want to make sure that we are real precise on what it is that we want to say. And it really does make the author say without filters, without adding extra words, without putting unnecessary dialogue in there. It really makes the author write the meat of her story, his story.
Like they say, get to the point of it.
Get to the point of the matter. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I've learned through being in a lot of those books, is that it taught me to get to the point. And then even helps even when you're speaking, like when you're on podcasts or whatever you're talking about it helps you say, okay, they're not going to give you all this time to talk about all that you do.
That's
so
a good point.
You need to condense it. Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a really great point. And you're absolutely right. When you're going on the talk shows, you only have, maybe 10 or 15 minutes that, especially if there's multiple authors on. So your time is very limited. So you have to really think about what bullet points that I want to make and what I want to convey, to the audience. So that's a very good point.
Yeah, definitely. So it helps in all areas. Now, Queen, I want to get to your next journey with some new authors that's coming. When Queens Rise, you have to tell me where you get. I love when you tell me your stories, where you get your themes from. So where did this one come from?
Barbara, really, when I'm thinking of another anthology, the title, I really pray about it. I really think about what it is I want to convey, what the message is for the authors and whatnot, and there's sometimes the title is a struggle for me, really, but and coming up with When Queens Rise, I thought about how many times, and even in my own life, this journey as women, what we've been on and what we've endured, and the resolve that we have, and even looking at the women that go on Facebook in my thread, and I see how powerful they are and the things that they're doing, but I'm looking at the end result of something they're achieving. I don't know their story and what got them there, and a lot of times we look at a person's end result and we don't know their story. We don't know what trial they've gone through. We don't know the adversity, the pain, the loss. We have no idea because we never heard of it, we never read about it. So when Queens Rise, I wanted to give a platform to queens, to our queens, and applaud them for their tenacity, for their endurance, for their resolve, for their bounce back, for the ability to just move forward in spite of. And so I believe that this book is really going to resonate with other queens who are just sitting on the sidelines wondering, what do I do with my life? What do I do with, because I'm here now, I need another queen to show me how to do it, And so when Queen Rise, stories of women rising to the top. We didn't get where we are. I mean, we're still in this process. We're still succeeding, but we're not where we used to be. And I want these stories to resonate with other women, other queens who are just, being silent. They have messages as well. And so these stories definitely are going to motivate other queens to straighten their crowns, and move forward and be the queens that they were created to be. And so these stories are really going to be, life transformation, experiencing. They're going to be showing or sharing their experiencing, giving insight and lessons that's going to help other queens who might be struggling in those same areas, but showing them, how to go deeper, showing them how to, have that transformation, but showing them how to turn the mess of their stories into as successful stories like these queens who are going to be in this book are going to do.
Well, I had to pull it up. I want to make sure everybody sees where you're doing a call out for women to be in this particular amazing book. Already, I see that this is going to be on fire. I always call lady queens, and I always help them to straighten their crown and to make sure that it's shining and make sure that they're, shining in the world. And I'm glad that you put an anthology book together to really salute them and really understand underneath the royalty that they have of what they went to this point to get to that point.
Yeah. And it's so important because, like I said, we look at someone who is really thriving, they're successful, they're being on magazines, on other, platforms, they're speaking, they're traveling all over the world, they're being connected with some great influencers. I see this on Facebook, but I also know that you wasn't born like that. There was a journey that got you here, and I want to be able to share that journey because there are so many women who are wondering, can I make it like that? Can I do that too? And what does it take? And really, I want the authors to really be authentic, to share from their hearts, to really share and be truthful about the journey, because there's nothing that we have to be ashamed about that has got us here. One of my favorite quotes is my messy story is my best story. My messed up story, of emotional trauma got me here. Now at the moment when I'm going through it, I didn't know that this was the pathway that God was going to lead me on, but I'm so grateful for that journey. I'm so grateful for all the hardship, all the heartache, all the no's, all the the doors that were slammed in my face, the people that walked out, the people that left, the people who rejected me. Oh my God, thank you. I could say thank you, because
Just
it
thinking
got me
about it.
here. Yeah, just thinking about it, that it got me here. Now you don't know at the time when that is going on, because you're broken, you're scarred, you have heartache, and you're crying. You don't know that is the process that God wants to take you through. Yeah, God needed them. We need them to tell us no. We needed the rejection in order to get us to push. And so God allows those things to happen in our lives because God already sees where we're going. He already sees the big picture in our lives. He already sees the people that we're going to touch. He already sees the books we're going to write, the stories we're going to convey, the businesses that are going to come out of it. But getting
Ooh.
getting on that journey, getting there, getting on that road, getting in that process, it takes fortitude, it takes determination, it takes stamina, it takes willpower, it takes superpower, it takes everything within us to get past that, to get to where we are. And these are the powerful stories that we need to tell one another, so that the queens that are there and struggling, that they know, you know what, let me put my crown on, let me dust this mess off of me, and let me bulldoze my way through success, so I can be one of those queens that's rising to the top.
Ooh, okay. Can I say drop mic? And I'm like, I can't say nothing else after that. There's nothing else I can say. Queen, that is amazing. And everything you said, the listeners out there, I want you to let them know what date you have that you're calling in these authors, because you just explained basically what you're looking for in a person that wants to be in this book.
So there's two interest calls, one on August the 4th and August the 11th. Both of them will be at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They could go to my Facebook page and register to get the link to go on Zoom on those days when we go live. And so I encourage those of you who have never written a book before, who have never been in an anthology before, and those of you who've been in other anthologies, and maybe you have a solo book, but maybe this part of your journey you haven't shared before, I encourage you to come along with me. Write your story, be one of the co-authors, be one of the queens that rise up and show us how you did it. We want to know how you got it done, And so I just encourage you. I would really encourage those of you to come to the first session, August the 4th, because there's only 20 spots that are going to be available. And I'm just believing the Lord that the spots are going to be gone, because I know these queens are going to rise up. I know they're gonna say, you know what, I got a story. I want it to be in this book, And it's so much about this transformation. One of the things that I absolutely, when I'm coaching, when I'm doing anthologies, it's the author's experience. I want them to have an amazing experience when it comes to being an author, because I've seen the posts. I've talked to other first-time authors. I've talked to authors who've been in anthologies before, and they have a bad taste in their mouth because they were not with the right person. And I'm going to just say that, they were not with the right visionary, and so they've had a bad experience. So now they don't know how to trust someone who's really authentic, And so what I did was, the post that's on my Facebook page, I put a testimonial from one of my authors, just her experience of working with me, because what better way to, build credibility than let somebody else tell their story, And so I would just say, try me. You know what? I would just say, try me, working with me, because I kid you not, it's about the experience that I want my authors to have. Just really being able to just share their story and then getting a return on their investment, whether it's coaching, monetary return, being exposed to other platforms. Hey, when I did the Breaking Point and we were on another show, Les Brown showed up. So you just don't know what God gonna do.
that when you told me that, Queen, I was like, OMG.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
So you just make yourself open.
yes.
You give yourself permission to do it, and when you give yourself permission to do it and you go through the process, then you're going to reap the rewards in it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, before we close out, I want to play a clip regarding this wonderful queen herself. And like I said, she's offering this opportunity to you. The queen's out there. She's putting the call out. So, but I want you just to see a little bit of more of what she does with her business, because she is amazing. We'll be right back. So if you're ready to be introduced to the world with your story, contact this wonderful queen. Contact this wonderful queen. You see, I mean, this lady was on CBS, ABC, NBC. I mean, and the list goes on. I could talk about her all day. But I know we don't have that time. But just to let you know that's why I bring her on, and she's a continuously queen that comes on under the Coaches Lounge and under the Diamond Factor Experience Network, because we believe really to help you and guide you. And I bring in the coaches and the consultants, the people that are really trying to help you, not just people that's saying they have a title. Everybody can have a title, but she basically proves the title. She has credibility, and she's been working with so many people with them being a first-time author, a continuous author. She says she does solo books too. I already told her, and I'm putting it out there, so now it's going to be out here, that she's going to be doing one of my solo books. So that means that I'm making accountability for me. So, Queen, thank you again for coming on, the time that you've taken out to come on the show and to really, put out there, what your next journey is going to be. And just to let everybody know, once she gets the authors and they get going with their chapter and everything, I'm going to be doing some special shows to give them visibility. And then you can hear about these other authors that's going to be in this book, these other queens that are going to come and tell you their little, their stories of how they got to the top. Now, they're not going to tell you everything because you got to buy the book. But they'll give you a little snippet. Just a little snippet. I can't wait. I just can't wait for that. I love talking to the authors. And, Pastor Pete, thank you so much again for just being who you are.
Thank you, Barbara. I so appreciate you, and your platform and your heart, to serve and your heart to give. So thank you so much. I appreciate our friendship, our connection. Yeah, the love. Yeah, the love. I appreciate that so much. And then the fact that, you are offering the authors before it even, we write our book, the offer to bring them on to your platform. Thank you so much. for that. And this has just been a tremendous blessing for you to, extend who you are as an influencer. And thank you again.
Well, thank you, Queen. We had to see the queens come together, and when collaboration happens, I mean, it blows up into a whole awesome world-changing event. So
Yeah.
that's why this book, I'm already gonna put it out there. It's going to change lives. These authors that are going to be in your book, I'm putting it out there. I'm already seeing it. God is just pressing upon me to say this is going to be a book that's going to change so many lives, Queen. So thank you for just adhering to your mark that you have to go and do this. Like you said, we got that call. Well, this is your call to help everybody put their call out there. So appreciate you.
Thank
so we
you
will
so
see
much.
everybody. Remember the dates again, August 4th, right?
August the 4th and August the 11th. Those are Thursday afternoon or evenings at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. And I'm going to make sure that you have the information, everybody that's watching, before, because this will be, we want to make sure that you get enough time to get your schedule together if you're interested.
Yeah.
So don't make any excuses saying, well, I didn't get the dates. So I'm going to make sure you get the dates. And then again, just be a blessing to yourself. Be a blessing to, Pastor P helping you with getting your story out there, and be a blessing to the world. And that's what it's all about. So we'll see you again at the other episode of Coach's Lounge with Barbara J. Beckley. Again, as I always say, always remember when you're a coach and you're in somebody else's life, you are helping them and tapping into their genius so they can help the world and make a change in life. Talk to you then. Bye.